In the world of professional wrestling, many moments are planned out in advance. However, there are times when unexpected events occur and things get real. Today, let's take a look at some of the most surprising, unscripted moments in wrestling history, where the boundaries between staged entertainment and reality become blurred. For the wrestlers that are involved in these incidents, the stakes are high. What starts as a scripted performance can quickly turn into a genuine conflict, putting their health, reputation, and sometimes even careers on the line. While there are many more instances to cover in the future, let's focus on the most significant and well-known incidents for now. Rick Rude vs. Mark Starr on March 14, 1994, WCW Saturday Night. While I covered Rick Rude here plenty on the channel in the past, the match with Mark Starr always sticks out to me. I couldn't confirm the real reasons behind the shoot incident that day, but Rude was always fuming on his way out. No little dance routine, just his eyes straight forwards, towards the jobber in the form of Mark Starr. After some yelling and Mark Starr catching a kick by Rude, the heat was on. After slamming him to the floor and following up with some stiff clotheslines, punches to the face, and dropping his opponent on his backbone, the audience could tell that something wasn't right that day. After a 3.5-minute beatdown and a pin with Rude's lower half on Mark's face, it was finally over. In case you're interested in the incident, you can check out the video by the guys from WrestleMe, who've done a great and hilarious job of breaking down the match. Braun vs. Brock, Royal Rumble 2018. When two monsters collide, things can get a little rough. Lesnar, known for his intensity in and out the ring, delivered some stiff shots to Strowman as receipts for a previous knee towards the head of the former UFC champion.
You and Brock, what happened there?
It got real. Two scary guys, two dominant males, not wanting to give give an inch to either one, and we took it from each other. Things happen.
This kind of situation has happened before in wrestling, like at WrestleMania 31, when Roman Reigns was on the receiving end of similar rough treatment. And with Lesnar's past experience in MMA and wrestling, he isn't shy of any altercation in and outside the ring, like in the past, when he had a friendly wrestling match with Kurt Angle. And talking about Angle, Daniel Puder against the Locker Room. Angle issued an open challenge on SmackDown on November 4th against a group of rookies. This challenge was accepted by the young up-and-comer, Daniel Puder, who at this point had already won MMA fight under his belt. Puder tried to put Angle in a Kimura and almost broke Angle's arm, as the referee quickly stepped in and counted a 3 count to resolve the situation. This actually led to some less than happy backstage atmosphere, and a second, lesser-known incident where Eddie Guerrero, Hardcore Holly, and Chris Benoit got some revenge. Puder was eventually released in 2005 for cost-cutting reasons, and still had a somewhat successful career in MMA for companies like Strikeforce, with an 8-0 record. Nowadays, Puder has several businesses and opened an MMA gym. Public Enemy vs. the Acolytes, March 7th, 1999, Heat. The incident involving the APA and Public Enemy highlighted the tensions and consequences of not cooperating with booking decisions in the wrestling industry. According to Bradshaw, right before the match, both members refused to do the table spot finish, which led to Farouk deciding to bring the table to them instead.
And I said, they don't want to go to the table. And he said, well, we'll take the table to them.
This all resulted in a vicious beatdown that left both Public Enemy members battered and literally as well as figuratively running out of the WWE.
And left.
And left.
Yeah.
The Dudley Boys faced a similar test and challenge in facing the Acolytes. Aware that no matter what they did, the Acolytes would try to roughen them up anyway. They fought back, pressed the test, and eventually became friends, and had a successful career in the WWE. This wasn't the last time JBL dished out some violence against ECW wrestlers. JBL Blue Meanie ECW One Night Stand 2005. According to plenty of interviews, JBL is no stranger to bullying, and with the Blue Meanie, he seemed to have found a target. While past altercations never really escalated, during the ECW One Night Stand 2005, things took a bloody turn. During a huge brawl, JBL took the liberty and dished out some stiff shots against the Blue Meanie, opening a previous scar up, which led to a bloody picture. According to an interview with JBL, he said that he might have dished out a few snug punches, but was later just retaliating against Blue Meanie's punches back. Bradshaw's reasoning was that he read Meanie's backstage remarks about him online. There was some small retaliation from Meanie's friend and fellow wrestler Stevie Richards, who delivered one of the hardest chair shots to JBL's head during a tag team match. Justice served. But since we're already on the topic of revenge and badmouthing, Yokozuna vs. Jobber WWF Raw. Respect had to be earned in the wrestling industry, and disrespect towards those who came before could have disastrous consequences. During an older episode of WWF Raw, an enhancement talent said disrespectful things to Mr. Fuji in the locker room. As a result, Yokozuna crushed the talent with an unprotected bonsai drop. The enhancement talent screamed for the referee to get Yokozuna off of him, but Yokozuna wouldn't budge until Fuji told him to. He learned his lesson the hard way. Non-selling moves can also have repercussions. Skyscrapers versus Mike Blackwell and Avalanche, NWA. An old NWA tag team match between the team of Avalanche and Mike Blackwell against the Skyscrapers, consisting of both 6'8" members Sid Vicious and Dan Spivey, uncovered the repercussions of not selling the offense of your opponent. In this particular instance, Blackwell decides not to sell Sid and Spivey's offense and pays the price in the form of several suplexes, rough punches, and a comedic Irish whip into his partner Sid, who simply crumbles on the floor. Another example of not selling going wrong brings us to Japan, with two former sumos squaring off against each other. Earthquake vs. Koji Katao, SWS 1991. Koji Katao, who held the highest title in sumo in the form of Yokozuna, not to be confused with a wrestler, had a rather large ego and was not only fired as a sumo, but also in New Japan Pro Wrestling for disrespecting remarks about his seniors. This attitude carried on into the match with another highly decorated former sumo in the form of John Tenta, better known as Earthquake in the WWF. The match started off well, however, when Katao tried to reverse or escape, Tenta's grip didn't loosen. In a worked match, Tenta would need to make this look real by working snugly against his opponent, and then there would need to be a transition from this hold, with Katao having an opportunity to maneuver into something else. However, the tension in the air was palpable, and it soon became clear that this was not going to be a worked match. After another test of strength, Katao managed to get out of Tenta's extremities into an arm lock, but he was quickly slapped hard across the face by the bear of a man. If he still wasn't convinced that Tenta wanted to shoot before, this slap probably confirmed his suspicions. The match was officially over, leaving everyone in a dazed state of confusion as to what they had just witnessed. Tenta raised his arms in victory because of Katao's disqualification. But before retreating to the dressing rooms, Katao had what he thought was a brilliant idea. He grabbed the microphone and vociferously proclaimed the wrestling was a farce, announcing that the chances of him losing to Tenta in a real fight were impossible. He spat on the ground and was escorted away by half a dozen men who quickly took away the microphone. Montreal Screwjob. While we're on the topic of spitting, arguably the most famous incident in the history of professional wrestling is the Montreal Screwjob. Since there are already plenty of great documentaries out there, I simply wanted to mention this incident to round out the list. Vince McMahon orchestrated a real-life double-cross against Bret Hart, altering the outcome of their match without his knowledge and changing the landscape of professional wrestling at the time, leading to an exodus of several wrestlers. But on the other side of the globe, another shoot incident changed a promotion's future. Act Yashikawa versus Yoshiko in Stardom. While there is a lot of speculation going on and some details still missing, the whole picture can be summarized in the following way. In simple terms, the situation boiled down to a clash between those who valued the traditional aspects of wrestling and an outsider entertainer who didn't care much for fitting into that mold. The outsider, Act, didn't respect the usual hierarchy in wrestling and had a tendency to hurt others in the ring with strong hits, referred to as potato shots. This conflict was further complicated by a disinterested booker who didn't want to take sides. When the match finally happened, Act continued to hit Yoshiko hard, and Yoshiko responded by retaliating excessively until the match had to be stopped. There were other personal issues at play, but this sums up the main points of the situation. This is just one of the many times in a Japanese company when things took a tragic turn, with other instances like Rikidozan vs. Masahiko Kaimura's shoot in 1954, where the aftermath led to the assassination of Rikidozan. The channel Wrestling Colin did an amazing job of going into all the details. Vader vs. Ken Shamrock at WWF, in your house. Bringing a rough style to the stage, former UFC fighter Ken Shamrock squared off against Vader. Vader was one of the biggest foreign heels ever in Japan, and Shamrock, one of the pioneers in MMA and veteran competitor who also enjoyed some success in pro wrestling. And then, they had their match in the WWF. Ken Shamrock's refusal to heed Vader's request to ease up on the stiff shots led to a tense confrontation between the two wrestlers. In a display of retaliation, Vader delivered a stiff shot of his own to Shamrock, commonly referred to as a receipt. This event led to a second act in the Japanese FMW promotion, where they faced each other under MMA rules, blurring the lines between what was real and what was not even further. Both matches are in retrospect awesome to watch if you enjoy a more hard-hitting style. Vader vs. Stan Hansen in New Japan Pro Wrestling, 1990. The probably more famous and violent incident involving Vader is his match against Stan Hansen, with the shocking moment where Vader's eye popped out during the match and his determination to continue despite the gruesome injury. Not only did his eye pop out, Vader was also tough, crazy, or reckless enough to pop it right back into its socket and continue the match like nothing ever happened. I need to mention that Hansen is blind as a bat, plus both guys working stiff made Vader nearly blind too. And while there wasn't any eye popping in the match, they had a really fun and stiff as hell rematch in Wrestle War 91. Macho Man Randy Savage vs. Jake the Snake Roberts, 1991. However, in wrestling, once an animal is introduced into the script, things can take an unexpected turn, such as the snake attack on Macho Man Randy Savage, where Jake Roberts' snake latched onto Macho Man's arm and refused to let go. An interview with some of the participants revealed that Macho Man didn't trust anyone and demanded that Jake take the bite first backstage. This incident likely left most of the younger audience at the event terrified for life. Umaga vs. the Jackass Crew. Another wrestler who refused to let go was Umaga. In an older episode, the Samoan monster fought against Jackass member Steve-O, battering him and landing on him with his 350-pound frame. The reason for this was that Steve-O laughed after each move and was not aware that he had to stay down, which led to Umaga flipping the script and unleashing elbows and more onto Steve-O, something he still recounts in some interviews.
Stop doing this to me! But that means that he has to keep doing it because I'm moving around. Oh, no! I don't remember leaving the ring, and they just cut to a commercial.
They could have stressed the importance of staying down a little bit more.
Right. I mean, dude, this got really ugly.
Brawl for All and the aftermath. Vince Russo's idea for a real shoot event, where some of the talent who didn't receive any recent push or had anything to do competed against each other under boxing-style rules, which led to injuries of the Road Warrior Hawk, Steve Williams, Savio Vega, Steve Blackman, and Droz. Winner of the tournament, Bart Gunn, eventually received the honor to face a professional pro boxer at WrestleMania 15 in the form of the 300-pound Eric Esch, aka Butterbean, as punishment, and eventually even having 2 pro MMA fights in 2006. And there we have it, some of the most famous shoot fights and incidents in pro wrestling. Which other ones would you have included in the list? Or maybe even saw live at an event or on TV? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to help the channel out, just give it a like and subscribe. See you guys next time.